Welcome back to BIM Heroes Radio. This is episode 12,
Episode 12, yeah.
where we focus on performance management in leadership,
Performance management in leadership.
which is the theme for week 12 in the free leadership development program.
It's a big one.
It is a big one.
Yeah, this week we're really going beyond just the metrics,
Right.
We're exploring the human side of things.
Man, human side, yeah.
Of how to lead a team effectively to success.
Absolutely.
How to be a good leader, basically.
Yeah, and we're going to be diving into the insights from several experts from the BIMHero.io community.
That's right.
So we've got a lot of voices to bring into this conversation.
A lot of different perspectives, yeah.
And we're going to be tackling everything from setting those crystal clear expectations
Yeah, I gotta start there.
to navigating those sometimes tricky performance reviews.
Oh, yeah, those can be tough.
They can be really tough.
And even you know how to address underperformance
Right.
while you're still trying to maintain that positive team dynamic.
Because you don't want to crush anybody.
No, exactly. It's a real balancing act.
It is a balancing act, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And for our listeners who want to go even deeper with all of this,
Yes.
be sure to check out the free leadership program at www.bimhero.io.
Absolutely. It is packed with resources to help you on that leadership journey.
Yeah, it's really fantastic.
And don't forget to subscribe to BIM Heroes Radio on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode.
Okay, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
We're starting with the foundation of any successful team, setting clear expectations and goals.
You got it?
And Simon Sinek's famous start with why idea
Yes.
is super relevant here.
It's all about the why.
If your team doesn't understand the purpose behind their work,
Yeah,
it's hard to get them truly invested.
absolutely.
So starting with why is crucial.
And that's where SMART goals come in.
SMART goals, yes. Tell me more.
So that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, so break that down for me.
Right. Well, Solomon Esaiyas, he's a BIM enthusiast and consultant.
Okay.
He wrote a great article about this.
Awesome.
And he argues that when goals are specific and measurable,
Yeah.
you can actually track progress
Right.
and see if you're on the right path, if you're actually achieving what you set out to do.
So it's not just about setting a goal and hoping for the best.
No, you got to be able to see how you're doing.
You need those milestones.
Exactly.
And if they're achievable,
Yes, achievable. That's key.
you're not setting your team up for failure.
You want them to feel motivated,
Exactly.
but not defeated.
And that relevant part is crucial too.
Oh, absolutely.
Solomon emphasizes aligning individual goals
Yeah.
with the overall company objectives.
It's all connected. You know, it makes everyone feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves.
Which is super motivating, right?
It is. It gives them a sense of purpose.
It's like we're all in this together.
Exactly.
We're all rowing the same boat, or whatever analogy you want to use.
I like that one. Rowing the same boat towards a shared vision.
And then having that time-bound element
Yes, the time-bound element.
that creates that sense of urgency,
Keeps things moving.
keeps things moving, and accountability.
Nobody wants to be the one holding the team back.
Absolutely. No one wants to be the weak link.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got SMART goals.
Check.
Now, you mentioned another key takeaway.
Right. This one is from Natalia Olivera from Estudio ES.
Okay, Estudio ES.
She leads a team spread across Latin America and Europe.
Wow, so that's a very diverse team.
It is.
And I imagine that presents some unique challenges.
It definitely does.
So what did she say about building a team in that kind of context?
Well, she writes about looking beyond just skills when you're building a team.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because you can have the most skilled people,
Right.
but if they don't work well together.
It's not going to be a successful team.
Exactly.
So what else does she recommend considering?
Well, she says it's crucial to find people whose values, their work ethic, their communication styles.
Okay, so the softer skills.
Exactly. Those softer skills that they mesh well.
They need to be compatible,
Right. Even across different cultures.
especially across different cultures.
Because, you know, different cultures have different ways of working.
Absolutely.
Different communication norms.
So you need to make sure everyone is on the same page.
Exactly. She calls it finding the perfect fit.
The perfect fit. I love that.
Which goes beyond, like we said, technical competence. It's
Right.
about those less tangible aspects that really contribute to a cohesive team.
So you're looking for people who not only have the skills,
Yes.
but also the right attitude and mindset.
The right fit for the team culture.
The right fit for the team culture, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got clear goals, a team that fits well together.
Sounds like a good start.
What's next?
Well, once things are in motion,
Yeah.
it's all about monitoring and measuring performance.
Okay, so making sure things are on track. But it's easy to slip into micromanaging there, isn't it?
It is. You want to be involved,
Right.
but you don't want to be breathing down their necks.
Exactly.
This is where situational awareness comes in.
Okay, situational awareness. Tell me more about that.
It's a concept highlighted by Simon Wardley,
Okay.
and it's about having that clear understanding of what's happening within the team,
Mm-hmm.
but also anticipating potential issues before they become big problems.
So not just watching over their shoulders, but like having that bigger picture view.
Exactly. You're looking ahead. You're seeing the whole playing field.
You're anticipating those potential roadblocks.
Precisely.
I like that, being proactive instead of reactive.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned Mustafa Fuad earlier.
I did. He wrote a really insightful piece on measuring performance.
Okay, and what were some of his key points?
Well, he talks about how measuring performance shouldn't be about controlling your team.
Right, it's not about being Big Brother.
No, not at all.
So what is it about then?
It's about understanding their progress, providing support where it's needed, and setting them up to succeed.
So data should be a tool for understanding,
Exactly.
not for punishment.
You want to use data to help your team improve, not to make them feel bad.
I like that approach. It's very positive.
And he also warns against getting too caught up in the hype of new tools and technologies for tracking performance.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to get distracted by all the shiny new things.
Right, but the question is, do they actually solve the problem?
Are they the right tool for the job?
Exactly. He stresses choosing tools that align with industry standards
Okay.
and that promote interoperability, so you're not creating more problems than you're solving.
That's really important because sometimes those new tools can create more complexity.
Absolutely. You don't want to add unnecessary layers of complication.
So choose wisely.
Choose wisely.
All right, we've covered setting clear expectations, assembling a strong team,
Yeah.
monitoring their progress. What's next on our performance management journey?
Well, now we get to the part that can be a bit tricky. Feedback and performance reviews.
Yeah, these are essential, but they can be tough.
They can be, both for the person giving the feedback
Right.
and the person receiving it.
Absolutely. And Jordan Peterson's ideas about self-awareness
Yes,
and authentic feedback are really relevant here.
they are. He's got a lot of great insights on this.
So what does he say about giving feedback?
He stresses the importance of delivering feedback that's both honest and constructive.
So you have to be truthful.
Yes, but also focus on helping the individual grow and develop.
So it's not about tearing someone down, it's about helping them become better.
Exactly. It's about providing guidance and support.
So striking that balance between honesty and encouragement,
Right. Finding that sweet spot where the feedback is both helpful and motivating.
which isn't always easy.
It's not. It takes practice.
And you mentioned Viktoria Roy earlier, from Reddy Architecture plus Urbanism.
Yes, she had some great thoughts about performance reviews.
What did she have to say?
Well, she compares a team to a puzzle.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right. Where each person is a unique piece.
It emphasizes that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses,
Exactly. And it's the leader's job to figure out how they all fit together.
like how to put the puzzle together to get that complete picture.
Exactly, to create a high-performing team.
And she suggests that instead of seeing a performance review as a judgment,
Right. It's not a time to criticize or point fingers.
it should be more collaborative, right?
Exactly. It should be a collaborative process.
So more of a two-way conversation.
Yes.
Where you're both trying to figure out the best way forward.
Precisely. And she even suggests sending questions beforehand
Oh, that's a good idea.
to give people time to reflect and prepare for the conversation.
So it's less about being put on the spot
Exactly.
and more about thoughtful reflection.
It makes the whole process less intimidating and more about problem solving together.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's about working together to improve performance.
Now, she also talks about understanding where each person is today in their development.
Yes, recognizing that we're all constantly evolving and growing.
It's about meeting people where they are and helping them grow from there.
Exactly.
And she has a great tip about using the review as a starting point
Oh, yes, I love this.
for an ongoing conversation about performance.
It's not a one and done kind of thing.
Right. It's not just a yearly formality.
Exactly. It should be an ongoing dialogue.
Regular check-ins, feedback.
Keeping the lines of communication open.
I like that.
And remember, feedback isn't just about addressing underperformance.
Oh, that's right.
It's also about recognizing and rewarding good performance.
Yes. Celebrating those wins.
Absolutely.
Because it's so important to acknowledge and appreciate all the hard work people put in.
And to let them know that their efforts are noticed and valued.
Exactly. A little appreciation goes a long way.
It really does.
Now, you mentioned Daria Zimovets earlier. a civil engineer.
I did. She wrote a great article about recognizing good performance.
And what are some of her key points?
Well, she talks about the power of timely and specific feedback.
So don't just say, good job.
Oh, tell them why they did a good job.
Be specific.
Exactly. Like you nailed that presentation because you anticipated those tough questions and had clear, concise answers.
Yeah, give them concrete examples.
It
Makes it so much more meaningful.
It does. It shows that you were paying attention.
And that you genuinely appreciate their effort.
Exactly.
And she's a big advocate for peer-to-peer recognition as well.
She is. She encourages a culture where colleagues feel comfortable acknowledging each other's successes.
Because hearing it from your peers often means even more than hearing it from the boss.
It does. It's that sense of camaraderie and mutual respect.
And she reminds us that recognition doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
It doesn't have to be a big ceremony or an expensive gift.
A simple thank you or a handwritten note can go a long way.
Those small gestures can have a huge impact.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Setting expectations, building a team, monitoring performance, giving feedback.
We have. It's a lot to take in.
What about when someone just isn't meeting those expectations? How do we deal with that?
Well, that's where developing performance improvement plans comes in.
Okay, performance improvement plans. So how do we go about creating those?
Well, Matt Ridley, in his writings on adaptability, talks about the importance of creating a dynamic environment that encourages continuous learning.
So not seeing underperformance as a failure,
Right.
but as an opportunity for growth.
Exactly. It's about helping people develop and improve.
And Viktoria Roy, in her article on performance improvement plans,
Yes, she has some great insights on this.
what did she say?
She really emphasizes the importance of establishing a performance benchmark first.
A performance benchmark. Okay, so what is that?
It's basically a clear understanding of what good looks like.
So you need to have a baseline to measure against.
Exactly. You need to know what you're aiming for.
How does she suggest we establish that benchmark?
Well, she outlines a pretty comprehensive approach
Okay.
that involves looking at company goals, business objectives, processes, how departments collaborate, and even past project performance.
So not just focusing on individual performance, but looking at the bigger picture and how everything fits together.
Exactly. It's about taking a holistic view.
And Solomon Esaiyas, in his piece on performance improvement plans,
Yes.
he suggests looking beyond the individual
Right.
and considering if there are systemic factors that might be hindering performance.
Like, are there issues with the processes or a lack of communication between departments?
Exactly. Things that might be outside of the individual's control.
Absolutely. You have to consider the whole context.
He also talks about addressing skill gaps,
Yeah, that's important.
which might involve providing additional training.
Or finding ways to leverage existing skills more effectively.
And of course, creating a culture of continuous improvement is crucial.
It's all about learning and growing together.
And he stresses that performance improvement plans should be collaborative,
Absolutely.
involving the individual in the process and ensuring they feel supported.
It's a partnership, not a punishment.
And speaking of collaboration, that same spirit needs to carry over when we're dealing with underperformance.
Yes, underperformance is a tough topic.
It is, but every leader has to deal with it at some point,
It's inevitable.
and it can be really emotionally charged.
It can be, yeah.
But approaching it with empathy is crucial.
Empathy is key. Absolutely.
We need to remember that underperformance isn't always about a lack of effort or ability.
There might be external factors at play.
Right. Things that we're not aware of.
And that's where David Snowden's work on complex human systems comes in.
Tell me about that.
He reminds us that people aren't machines.
Right. We're not robots.
Their performance is influenced by a multitude of factors.
So taking the time to understand those factors is key to finding the right solution.
Absolutely. It's about getting to the root of the problem.
And Solomon Esaiyas and Maulik Gangani, in their articles on dealing with underperformance,
Yes.
they emphasize that private dialogue is much more effective than public reprimands.
Shaming someone never helps.
No, it just makes them feel worse.
Exactly. It's about guiding them towards a solution, not making them feel bad about the situation.
And they also talk about focusing on constructive feedback
Right. Clearly outlining what needs to change.
and working together to develop an action plan.
It's a team effort.
So it's about empowering them to improve, not just dictating what they need to do.
Exactly. You want them to feel ownership over the solution.
And sometimes, despite our best efforts,
Yes, sometimes it happens.
underperformance persists.
It's tough, but you have to be prepared to make tough decisions.
So what do we do then?
Well, they discuss the need to take appropriate actions.
Like what?
which might involve reassignment to a role that better suits their skills,
Okay.
or, as a last resort, termination.
Termination, that's the last thing you want to do.
It is, but sometimes it's necessary.
For the good of the team and the individual.
It's not a decision to be taken lightly.
But it's important to remember that these actions should always be a last resort.
The goal is always to help people succeed.
Okay, before we dive into our final thoughts on performance management and leadership,
Yes.
a quick reminder to our listeners. If you want to explore these concepts in more depth,
Absolutely.
check out the free leadership program at www.bimhero.io.
It's full of valuable resources,
And be sure to subscribe to BIM Heroes Radio on YouTube and Spotify.
so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Now let's shift gears a bit and connect all of this to the broader theme of performance management in leadership.
Sounds good.
We've talked about setting expectations, giving feedback, addressing underperformance.
Not important stuff.
But what does it all mean when we put on that leadership hat?
That's the big question.
And it's something Rolf Montague, the founder of BIMHero.io, reflects on in his article.
He does. He gets really personal in that article.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, he talks about how performance management is one of the most challenging topics for him personally.
Really? Why is that?
He admits that it's hard to live up to his own vision.
Right.
And to deal with the disappointment that comes when things don't go as planned.
I think a lot of leaders can relate to that.
I think so too.
It's that constant striving for excellence, knowing that you and your team won't always hit the mark.
It's about managing expectations, both your own and your team's.
And it's great that he's so open about it.
It makes him relatable.
It does. It makes him human.
And he uses a really interesting analogy to illustrate his point.
I love analogies. Tell me about it.
He compares a high-performing team to an orchestra.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Well, he points out that each musician is incredibly talented in their own right.
Right. They're all virtuosos.
But they choose to be part of something larger.
They come together to create something beautiful.
Exactly. And he uses this to highlight the beauty and complexity of interdependence.
So it's like each person has their own unique part to play.
Yeah. But the real magic happens when they come together.
Exactly, when they harmonize and create something greater than the sum of their parts.
And he talks about the importance of maturity.
Maturity, yes.
And shifting from a mindset of independence to one of interdependence.
It's about recognizing that we need each other.
We're all in this together.
Exactly.
Mm.
And he even mentions Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, a classic.
And the idea that truly effective individuals recognize the interconnectedness of everything.
So it's not about solo performance.
No.
It's about recognizing that we succeed or fail together.
Exactly. It's a collective effort.
And Montague poses a really thought-provoking question.
He does, he asks. What's the answer?
That's the answer. That's a good one.
When it comes to navigating the complexities of performance management and leadership,
It's a question that every leader grapples with.
I think so too.
And I bet he has some interesting insights.
He does. He admits that he doesn't have all the answers.
Of course not. No one does.
Yeah.
But he does offer some really valuable perspectives.
Like what?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of empathy.
Empathy, we've talked about that before.
Sure.
Really understanding where people are coming from and the challenges they're facing.
Exactly. And he encourages leaders to recognize the human condition we all share.
The human condition, what does he mean by that?
He means that we're all flawed, we all make mistakes, we all experience disappointment.
We're all human.
Exactly. And recognizing this shared experience can help us approach performance management with more compassion and understanding.
So cutting ourselves and others a little slack.
Yes.
Acknowledging that we're not always going to be perfect.
It's about being realistic and kind.
He also stresses the importance of acceptance and tolerance.
Acceptance and tolerance towards ourselves and others.
Because we're not always going to live up to our own expectations or those of others.
And holding ourselves and our team members to impossibly high standards only sets us up for disappointment and frustration.
It's a recipe for burnout. So how do we find that balance?
Well, Montague cautions against giving up on the vision of a better future.
So not getting so bogged down in the day-to-day struggles that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Right. He argues that resigning ourselves to the current reality only leads to stagnation and decline.
It's about holding on to that belief that things can be better, that we can continuously improve, both individually and collectively.
Exactly. It's about maintaining that hope and that drive.
And he uses the term hero's journey.
He does. It's a great metaphor.
And reminds us that the path to success is rarely smooth.
It's full of obstacles, setbacks, and challenges.
But it's through facing those challenges and learning from our mistakes that we grow as leaders.
And his final message is so powerful. Don't give up.
Don't give up. I love that.
He's reminding us that leadership is a continuous journey.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And even when we fall short, we need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep striving for something better.
That's a great message to end on.
I think so too, and I think it segues nicely into a question for you, the listener. So as we wrap up this deep dive into performance management and leadership, what stood out to you from Ralph Montague's perspective?
Honestly, his vulnerability, it's not every day you hear a successful entrepreneur admit to struggling with something as fundamental as leading a team,
Right.
That really resonated with me.
I agree. It humanizes him and makes his advice feel more genuine.
Right.
And it's a good reminder that leadership isn't about perfection.
Right.
It's about continuous growth.
Another thing that really resonated with me was Montague's emphasis on empathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so easy to get caught up in deadlines and deliverables and metrics.
Right, all those things.
But we're leading people at the end of the day.
It's it, people.
And those people have complex lives,
They do. They have emotions and challenges that inevitably impact their work.
Absolutely.
So understanding that human side of the equation is as important as understanding the business side.
It's all connected. And that ties in beautifully with the idea of interdependence.
It does.
As Montague pointed out with his orchestra analogy.
Yeah, that was a good one.
A team is greater than the sum of its parts.
We can achieve so much more together.
It's about recognizing that we need each other.
Absolutely.
That we succeed or fail together.
That's the key.
And that requires a certain level of maturity, doesn't it?
It does.
Moving away from that every person for themselves mentality.
Yeah, it's not about competition within the team.
And embracing a more collaborative approach.
Working towards a shared goal.
So as we synthesize all of these insights from our experts, what are some key takeaways our listeners can apply to their own leadership journeys?
Well, I think the biggest one is to lead with empathy, like we were just talking about.
Empathy, yes.
Take the time to really understand your team members, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their individual circumstances.
Communicate with them.
Yes, communication is key.
Open, honest, two-way communication.
That's how you build trust.
It's crucial for building trust and fostering a positive team environment.
Couldn't agree more.
Another takeaway is to be clear about expectations from the start.
Absolutely.
And that starts with setting SMART goals.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Right, like Solomon Esaiyas emphasized.
He's got it down.
And then making sure that everyone understands how their individual efforts contribute to that bigger picture.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Which brings us back to Simon Sinsek's start with why idea.
Yes, the why.
People are far more motivated when they understand the purpose behind their work.
It gives them a sense of meaning.
And once those expectations are set, it's important to monitor and measure performance.
Of course, you need to track progress.
But as Mustafa Fuad cautioned, do it in a way that feels supportive, not controlling.
You don't want to micromanage.
No, you want to use data to identify areas for improvement.
And to provide support where it's needed.
Not to punish or micromanage.
Exactly. Data should be a tool, not a weapon.
And when it comes to giving feedback, remember Jordan Peterson's advice about authenticity.
Be real, be honest.
Be honest, but also be constructive. Frame your feedback in a way that helps the individual grow and develop.
Focus on the positive.
And don't forget Victoria Roy's insights about performance reviews.
Those are gold.
Make them collaborative.
Have a conversation.
Send questions beforehand. Create a space for open dialogue.
It's a two-way street.
And treat the review as the beginning of an ongoing conversation.
Not the end of it.
And remember, it's not all about addressing underperformance.
That's right.
Celebrating successes is crucial too.
Absolutely. Celebrate those wins.
As Daria Zimovets pointed out, recognizing and rewarding good performance is a powerful motivator.
People need to feel appreciated.
And that recognition doesn't have to be elaborate or expensive.
Sometimes the smallest gestures mean the most.
A simple thank you.
A handwritten note.
Those can go a long way.
They really can.
But when underperformance does occur, remember that it's rarely malicious or intentional.
People generally want to do a good job.
Take the time to understand the underlying causes.
Get to the root of the problem.
Create a performance improvement plan together.
It's a collaborative effort.
And provide the necessary support.
Give them the tools they need to succeed.
And as Solomon Esaiyas emphasized, if systemic factors are contributing to the problem, address those as well.
Sometimes it's not the individual, it's the system.
And while we strive for success as leaders, we also need to embrace the reality that we won't always hit the mark.
We're not perfect.
As Ralph Montague reminded us, leadership is a journey.
Full of twists and turns.
And setbacks are inevitable.
That's part of the process.
The key is to learn from those setbacks, adapt, and keep moving forward.
Don't give up.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. The BIMHero.io community is here to support you every step of the way.
We're all in this together.
We have so many great resources available, including the free leadership program,
Check it out.
which you can find at www.bimhero.io.
It's packed with valuable information,
And of course, subscribe to BIM Heroes Radio on YouTube and Spotify.
so you never miss an episode.
We're diving into so many fascinating topics that are relevant to leaders at all levels.
From beginners to seasoned pros.
And before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. As you continue on your leadership journey, remember to lead with empathy.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Prioritize communication
Keep those lines open.
and never stop learning and growing.
Always be a student.
And don't forget Ralph Montague's inspiring words.
What were those again?
Don't give up.
Ah, yes. Classic Montague.
Keep striving to be the best leader you can be.
You got this.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
We have. It's been a real deep dive into performance management and leadership.
And we've heard from so many great voices from the BIMHero.io community.
Yeah, a real wealth of experience and insights.
Solomon Esaiyas, Natalia Olivera,
Mustafa Fuad, Viktoria Roy,
Daria Zimovets, Matt Ridley,
Jordan Peterson, Simon Wardley, Maulik Gangani.
and of course Ralph Montague himself.
Each one offering a unique perspective on what it takes to be an effective leader.
Now, as we wrap things up, I'd love to hear what resonated most with you, the listener.
Yeah, what really stood out?
Was there a particular concept or quote, or maybe even a story that really stuck with you?
Something you're going to take away and apply to your own leadership journey?
You know, for me, it was Ralph Montague's analogy of the orchestra.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It was such a powerful way to illustrate that idea of interdependence.
How each musician, they're a virtuoso in their own right.
Right, incredibly talented individuals.
But they choose to come together to create something truly extraordinary.
And that's what leadership is all about, isn't it?
Bringing together a group of talented individuals and inspiring them to work together towards a shared goal.
Creating something bigger and more impactful than any one person could achieve alone.
And that emphasis on empathy, that really resonated with me too.
Yeah, from Jordan Peterson's insights on authentic feedback.
To David Snowden's work on complex human systems.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not just managing tasks or projects.
We're leading people.
Real people with emotions and complexities, with lives outside of work.
Absolutely. And understanding those human factors is just crucial to effective leadership.
So, as you continue to hone your own leadership skills, remember to lead with empathy.
Embrace collaboration.
And never stop learning and growing.
And if you're looking for support and guidance along the way,
Be sure to check out the free leadership program at www.bimhero.io.
and subscribe to BIM Heroes Radio on YouTube and Spotify for more deep dives into the world of leadership and the AEC industry.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of BIM Heroes Radio.
Until next time.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading.